Issue 113. In the first story, Tails is flying a biplane with Sonic in a fog that came out of nowhere. Sonic says to Tails, "Well, Tails, can you land this thing or not?" And they go to a convenient gap in the fog, landing the plane that looks blue now. Sonic says he doesn't think they're on Mobius anymore, and Tails is reminded of a story he read about the Minotaur living in a maze. It's interesting that he read about Greek mythology like that. He just went out of his way to learn about that. I guess it's kind of showing an intellectual side to him. Let me guess. They run away from a Minotaur and a Yeti. Oh, yeah, the Yeti was original at least. And escape the maze into a cave. Tails wonders if someone's listening to them and making what he mentioned about monsters come true. Sonic says to a monster that they're not playing the game anymore, and an alien menace shows up. Then it's revealed that he wasn't just an alien menace, he was a misbehaving boy. And his mother tells him to put his pets Sonic and Tails back home at once. That immediately reminded me of the episode of Futurama where a basement dweller fog monster forced the crew of Star Trek to act out his fanfictions, and then his mom came in to stop him. That was funnier. I have the biggest smile just from talking about it. This is just played completely straight until the end. So it's played straight, and then all of a sudden it's a joke. The story ends with Sonic telling Tails to never mention this again because it could be bad if a kid found out someone wanted to keep him as a pet. In the next story, we start out with text boxes explaining that since Eggman was ousted, the people of some zones have become wealthier. And this is the case for the people of El Dorado Zone, built on the site of the old Diamond Mine Zone. And Tails wonders if he could buy a decent veggie burger here. I'd expect that a mile if you want to eat veggie burgers. I guess this is supposed to be a part of him being quote-unquote boring, but I'd say it's the opposite since it's so strange to me as a meat lover. He asks a rich couple where the local chippy is, wherever that is. Is that some British slang I don't know about? He's told that they don't have chip shops in the zone, and the rich woman says that they only dine in expensive restaurants. So is this a zone where literally everyone is rich because everyone's working in diamond mines? That's not realistic to have no variety in jobs in an entire zone. The rich woman says that this place is too classy for Tails. I guess she knows he's not rich because his tails make him world famous, and so people would know that he's not rich, but still, it's not like he's a slob. And the rich man says he wouldn't get in without a tie anyways. Tails thinks, what awful snobs, while merely looking surprised. And he continues to just look surprised as he thinks that the rich people aren't entitled to act stuck up. I wonder if they'll be taught a lesson. After he continues to think in the white boy laziness that he should just go home, he hears people screaming for help because of a drill bot from the underground mine. And one of the people in the restaurant says, "Its table manners are appalling." That made me smile. Way to miss the point. Tails is asked to get his reservation by the idiot who should know he's trying to help with the situation and let him go, and Tails misinterprets him and says he has plenty of reservations against risking his life, but will do it anyways. And it took me a bit to get that pun. The rich woman is scared of the drill ruining her designer clothes, and Tails flies around the drill saying that if he steers clear of the sharp and dangerous bits, he can usually find their weak spots, which really shows how experienced he's become at fighting robots. The weak spot in this case is a power-off switch that he found. Why did Eggman have that installed? Well, I guess it was in case it turned against him, but if he's sending it against his enemies and it's far away from him, he should have disabled it. Tails is told good work by a diamond miner, who says that the diamond sensors on his drill bot went wild when they detected the jewelry on the customers here. Oh, I thought the drill bot was one of Eggman's bad dicks. Now an off switch makes sense. That's a pretty brilliant subversion. The villain is an accidental one. Tails is offered a diamond necklace as a reward, and Tails turns it down because it's not his style, which is stupid since he could at least sell it for money, but I guess he'd think that was too rude to do to a gift. Not to mention the expensive necklace would only make him a target for mugging, which would have been a better excuse for him to turn it down. Someone asks what's wrong with him for turning down Class A diamonds, and rather than explaining himself properly, he just says in the white void of laziness that he'd still prefer a veggie burger. You'd think that's the kind of thing that would be sold in high-class places, since it sounds healthier than mainstream burgers. Tails is about to leave this place for Emerald Hill, since all anyone here thinks about is the money they have too much of already, when he hears another cry for help, and is annoyed at being kept busy instead of being happy because he's a hero who likes heroing, or is worried about the person. A rich woman cries about her diamond tiara being stolen, and a policeman says he's got a printout from the security camera, making Tails happy now that we can identify the burglar. I sort of expected the cop to then ask, "What are you doing here? This has nothing to do with you," and tell him to mind his own business, which would have been more realistic since, vigilantism is illegal. But instead, he elaborates that the photo shows someone entering the 13th floor from the outside, implying that they were flying or entered on a hovering platform or machine. Then Tails is framed for the crime because he would have been easily capable of doing it, and the photo looks like an oddly silhouetted version of him. This is part of the reason why you should mind your own business, Tails, though how is he supposed to know that ahead of time? The story ends with us seeing the shadow version of Tails thinking that this is working out better than he expected, and he can just keep being a criminal while Tails will get the blame. I'm not sure how he expects to be able to do that while he's in jail, so everyone would know that he was doing that because Tails is in jail and the crime is still happening. He's not thinking ahead. Maybe he plans on stopping once the kid's put in jail. I would have preferred cutting out the first half of the story, because it feels like it could be its own separate story. It should have been cut out to make room because this is far more interesting of a plot. And you'd think the cops would eventually learn that Tails quite famously just refused a diamond necklace, and thus would have no reason to take a tiara. In the next story, in the alien dimension after the spaceship of not Darth Vader was shot at, I'm smiling just typing that ridiculous sentence for Sonic. Amy expresses gratitude that the ship was fitted with airbags, and Techno says the crash knocked the fight out of the Insectra troops. Not Darth Vader says he wants revenge against his enemies the Blurg for that crash, and the commander says they'll be his prisoners. Shortview says that rather than being the good guys, of course, the Blurg are just as warlike as the Insectra, and not Darth Vader whispers to the commander that they can't end the hostilities because they'll lose all the perks they get as leaders, like expense accounts and company vehicles. And he humorously says, "Think, man!" with the commander being nervous and apologizing for getting carried away by asking him to surrender. It's nice to see, like this is more of a parody of Darth Vader then. Then he says he's changed his mind about capturing them and he'll continue the conflict on this planet. And not Darth Vader says that his troops are ready to take his on. Then a floating ghost-like being says that she naturally doesn't want the conflict to happen on her planet. I assume it's a girl because she's pink, and otherwise that'd be bad art design. She says her name's Mello. Oh, just like Charmy's bee-friend in Archie who got a drug overdose. That's a coincidence. She's the spiritual leader on the peaceful planet, where wars are forbidden. Yeah, but logically they break out anyways because people have tempers. Not Darth Vader assumes there's no weapons here, and the commander suggests a temporary truce to conquer the planet. And that's the problem with having no preparation for future war. Then the Insectra learn that their plasma blasters aren't working, and neither were the ones of the enemy troops, and not Darth Vader asks what's going on since they're only recharged this morning. Predictably, this is because the native people did something to stop them. They're one with their world because magic, and their planet's magical energy flow doesn't allow weapons to function here, which spares them a lot of grief. So, people can still fight with their bare hands. There would still be wars. Not to mention, spaceships could attack the planet with lasers without actually getting out of the spaceships and onto the land itself. Amy throws Visor Vader to the ground, snarking, "Not so tough without your guns, are you, Jam Jar Face?" Aw, I thought she said Jar Jar Face. Never mind. The enemies of the Insectra immediately give up because they're useless without their weapons in a fight. Or as one of them puts it, they're useless in a fair fight. No one would ever say that. That'll just make you look like the bad guy. Shortfuse grabs Commander Wobbla, and one of Wobbla's men says that his people are fed up with the war. Naturally, after 10,000 years. And not Vader panics about how the war is their tradition. So Amy asks him to give peace a chance rather than making another tradition for them as a replacement, and we see the Insectra and Blurg living on the planet peacefully, with Amy saying the planet has a calming effect on them. So it's brainwashing them into not being as violent. Then out of nowhere, Shortfuse thinks that these Kamdaran people could free him from his armor with their mere positive energy. He just came here, how would he know that? It'd be lame if he lost his armor because then he wouldn't be able to fight Eggman anymore. And apparently he's been trapped in the armor for 2 whole years. So it's been 2 years since issue 45. I guess that would explain Tails' character development to a more useful character. But I don't think... I don't know. I guess intelligence does come with age. It's naturally lampshaded. What happens when you need to? And Sharpfuse actually explains it as the armor having a built-in filter system. That must be how it is for badniks in general too. It's like with astronauts, they recycle it. The story ends with Amy and Techno wondering how to get back home, with Amy asking, "Anyone got a map?" which I liked. The first story was by Nigel Kitching, and was about Sonic and Tails being threatened by a Minotaur and other mythological creatures in a fog maze, purely for the amusement of a crazy child from space who eventually gets stopped by his nagging mother. This concept was done better in Futurama because there it was obvious the guy was a nerd from the start, so it was an amusing parody the whole time through, making the characters read fanfiction instead of their lives being threatened the whole way through. After that one shot, the rest of the issue is by Lou Stringer, and in the second story, Tails gets framed for the theft of a diamond tiara in the rich El Dorado zone because of a shadow version of himself that steals jewelry. Since that's more interesting of a plot than the first half of the story, which feels totally disconnected from it, the first half feels like padding and wasting comic space so that we can't skip to the interesting story right away in the first story. And the third story was about the warring aliens, whose commanders are only warring to get perks as leaders, ending their fight because they crash land on a planet that's magical energy forbids wars and weapons, and has a calming effect on the people there. That was interesting, much more so than Amy simply talking the leaders into a truce on her own.